constraints this problem has. Okay, so this is what these three things represent. And on this side, this second rectangle that I'm drawing, this part is called as a constraint graph for the given problem. So this part, I'll just show it using arrow. So this part here is called as a constraint graph. So we'll talk about these three things gradually. Constraint, sorry. Okay. So this just is a representation of the problem, by the way. We are not solving the problem as yet. We are trying to represent and trying to understand, or you can say we are just trying to analyze the problem in order to better represent it as a state space problem maybe. Okay. So anybody asks you a note on crypt arithmetic, you should start with saying what is crypt arithmetic. I tried to convey to you the meaning of it. You can search over internet and get your answer correctly represented in your own words. Okay, but for me, if you ask what is a crypt arithmetic problem, it is nothing but a cryptographically represented arithmetic expression that we want to decipher or decipher. Okay, so I have a ciphertext, and in that ciphertext some arithmetic operation is shown to me. I want to decipher it, what it exactly is. That is what is crypt arithmetic problem in its essence. Now I may have multiple operands, multiple operators, and maybe in certain intermediate results and final results in the problem. Here also, when I add TWO, TWO, and I get FOUR, you naturally know the laws of arithmetic since it's an arithmetic operation. When I add O and O together, if the addition is above 10, what will happen is there will be a carry. Okay, there will be a carry generated, and that carry will be added now or taken into account now when I do addition of W and W, right? So I may have a carry that get generated when I add O and O. I may have a carry when I actually do the calculation of W plus this carry. Okay, and I may have a carry generated when I add this second carry along with these two T's to get this O as at the unit place, and that carry actually is this one. So there are two carries that may get generated in this whole calculation, right? So I may require to represent those carries. So if you see the constraint equations over here, so the constraint equation that I can obtain by looking at this example, being an arithmetic example, being a human being, I can easily understand that when I add O with O, I may generate an R, but there may be a carry generated, and that carry is represented here with variable x1. So this is a latent variable, or you can say hidden variable, that is not seen in the original problem, but that you require to understand what is happening. So O plus O is not just R, but it is R plus 10 into x1. That is how the addition is done, right? So we may have a carry generated, and that carry is x1. Okay. When I go to the second place or tens digit, and I'm adding these W with W, this carry which is brought from the units place, I need to use it, right? So x1 plus W will be how these three numbers will look like when they are added at this particular place, and it will generate U, again one carry into 10. So that the second carry is x2. So I'll be generating x2 into 10 plus U, and that will give me this carry. So this is nothing but my first carry x1. This is nothing but my second carry x2 maybe. This is how you are actually representing your results. Now when I add t plus t, my resultant is going, so I add t plus this second carry. That is how the addition will actually look like. Then it will be resultant is equal to 0 plus 10 into third carry, but this third carry actually goes to the next digit. So next digit f should be equal to the third carry. So f is actually going to be my third carry in this calculation. Since it is shown to you that 2 3-digit numbers are added and you're getting a result which is 4 digits, for this result to be of 4 digits number, the f must be not equal to 0. So that's another constraint on my particular problem. Okay. Here is another constraint, t is should also not to be equal to 0. It's another constraint. So that this is how you try and represent the constraint in a text format. The other important thing that I forgot when I actually explain you the definition of a cryptarithmetic problem is that there is one more constraint in general on all cryptarithmetic problems, and that constraint is all the letters that are used to represent the digits, okay, they are unique. That means one letter should be used for one digit, and the same digit can't be represented with same digit can't be represented with another letter. So F, T, U, W, R, O must have different values. So I have 6 letters, 9 numbers. So 9C, 6 combinations to choose from. So these are the different combinations.
10 numbers.
Yeah, 10 numbers. Sorry, 10 numbers. Right, you're right. 10C6 kind of combinations to choose from. Okay, so 10 numbers are there. I should choose 6 numbers which are not identical, and that is what this constraint is saying. So the constraint is telling me that all F, T, U, W, R, O must be distinct. That is, all diff is saying that all should be different from each other. So that is how we can identify what are the variables, what could be the domains of those variables, and what are the constraints. Now, importance about this cryptarithmetic problem over the graph coloring problem that we saw last week is that in this problem, there are certain variables which are referred to as hidden or latent variables. X1, X2, X3 here, actually X3 is not needed as such, but to have a consistency in our definition, we are saying that X3 is the carry generated at the hundreds place, and then we say that it is equal to f. Okay, otherwise you can just say that x2 plus t equals to o plus 10 into f, 10 into f, yeah, 10 into f. That is actually the way it is represented. Let it be. We are not going into the finding out solution for the cryptarithmetic problem today, because we want to quickly go through the first level of understanding of CSP problems, how they are different from each other, and how exactly a cryptarithmetic problem can be looked at as. Okay, so we last week also saw that there is something called as a constraint graph, using which you can visualize what different constraints a problem has. Now, same thing is shown over here. This constraint graph shows you most of the constraints that are here which are not unary. That means which involve more than one variable. So here, this particular constraint, you will naturally say that this is nothing but my all diff constraint. The label is not there in that box, but you can naturally see that this is the visualization of all diff constraint. So constraint graph is just providing you a visualization in order to better understand your problem. That's all it is telling you. And maybe when you are solving the problem, it may give you a quick reality check whether a constraint is flawed or not. Okay, by looking at the constraint graph, I can quickly check whether any of the constraints are flawed or not. People who solve these kind of problems, they do devise or they do represent certain data structures in addition to the usual data structures that we have with the state space representation. So this constraint graph, mainly here we are looking at as a tool to visualize the constraints. Okay, so this particular constraint where all the variables F, T, U, W, R, O are participating. So these links show that these variables are participating in this particular constraint. And I only have a constraint that these variables participate in as this first one, which is called as all diff constraint, wherein we say that all have different values. Their values do not match. Now, all other constraints that we look at, there are 1, 2, 3, 4 in this graph. Okay, they will have certain variables taking part. So this particular constraint, x3 and f are taking part. So they naturally are they are naturally representing a binary constraint, because there are two variables taking their part in defining the constraint or stating the constraint. So x3 and f, which constraint it is? This one, x is equal to f3. So this is equality constraint, which checks equality of the value I assign to x3 and value I assign to f. Okay, next here is this one, which is having three variables participate, not three, four variables participating in it. So it is t, o, x2 and x3, and x2, t, o and x3. So this is this constraint that we are referring to. So please understand, these two constraints we can't see in the constraint graph because they are unary constraints. So they are just based on a single variable. Okay, constraint graph is telling us the participation of different variables in the constraints on a given problem. Okay, so that's why that they are not seen in the constraint graph. So this would be, so if I'm numbering the constraint, so if I number this as 1, this is 2, this is 3, 4, and this one as 5. Okay, in actually there are 7 constraints, 2 of them are unary, rest of the 5 are either binary or more than 2 variables, involving more than 2 variables, or n-ary I should say. Okay, so this is a binary constraint, and this is 4 variable constraint or n-ary constraint with n as 4. Okay, so this is my constraint number 4. Okay, this is constraint number 5. This is, I guess, yeah, constraint number 3, uw, x2 and x1. And finally, I have the second constraint over here. And this is the first constraint. So all the 5 constraints I see here are multi-variable constraints that involve multiple variables in defining them. Okay, so this is what the constraint graph looks like for cryptarithmetic problem. So what we have seen so far is what is the definition of cryptarithmetic problem, how I can identify the variables in cryptarithmetic problem. Important bit of addition in cryptarithmetic problem is that sometimes in the arithmetic there are certain variables which are latent variables like carry, maybe something like in multiplication also carry is generated, in division maybe there is certain reminders kind of things are generated, which may be part of latent variables which are hidden from the outset of the problem. But to be able to solve the problem, it is better to use these latent variables. And then we need to understand what domains it has. Since it's an arithmetic problem, generally a digit may have value from 0 to 9. So there are 10 values, as rightly pointed out by Ajay, 10 value in the domain, and all the variables, the domain is same. Now the only thing is that certain variables can't take all the values from the domain. They are, because they are restricted, just like t and f. T can't be 0 and f also can't be 0. And other thing that you can think about is, can f have value more than 2? Can I have f to be 3? Can I get f as 3 if I add two 3-digit numbers? What is the largest 3-digit number that you can think of? 999. Artificially we can consider it to be 999, and then second number is 999. If I add these two numbers, what do I generate? Can anybody just tell me what is the f value that we can generate with this? So the 100 place 99, when I add them, it is 18, and the carry that I get from the previous digit will be 1, so it will be 19. So 9 will be the resultant and the carry will be 1. So f can't be more than 1 in this scenario. So you can imagine this, and you can relate that f can only take value 1 out of these 10 domain values that I have for f. Only valid value such that it satisfies the problem constraint is 1. Okay, and this is how you'll unwind and you'll solve it. I'm not going to talk about solution of cryptarithmetic problem today, but you can speculate how it will be solved on your own after today's session, and maybe we'll discuss it tomorrow, how to get actual answer of a cryptarithmetic problem. It's easy process. It's not a difficult process, and many examination papers, you'll find such cryptarithmetic problem propping up for 5 marks. So they'll ask you a note on cryptarithmetic either, or they will ask you cryptarithmetic problem for solving for 5 marks. So 2 and 2 plus 4 can be there for solving for 5 marks. So what to write in such case, we'll discuss it tomorrow. Today we are jumping